Hello, and welcome to In the DeNovo. I'm Will Grace, founder and managing director here at DeNovo Treasury, where we empower leaders of community financial institutions entering commercial and industrial banking with expertise for their strategic investment in treasury management products and services. We prioritize the how over the what. We believe in a collaborative journey and go beyond traditional services by actively transferring treasury management expertise to our clients. Thank you for joining us and staying in the know within the DeNovo.
Hello, and welcome to In the DeNovo. This is the DeNovo Treasury monthly web series. Welcome. We talk all things treasury management here. And if you're a regular viewer of this series, you're probably wondering who I am. My name is Barbara Kerr. I'm the Senior Director of Product Support for DeNovo Treasury. And today we're doing something a little bit different. Our featured guest is Will K. Grace, who is the founder of DeNovo Treasury. And we thought we'd have a little fun and talk about our company, our offerings, and all things treasury management. So welcome, Will.
Thank you, Barb. I feel like half of Zach Galifianakis and in between two ferns. I feel like I've missed a fern now that I'm looking at this. But
so we can call this to the right of the fern, maybe.
I guess so. I think we can proceed, right?
I love it. And I'm only sorry that Zach Galifianakis is not actually conducting this interview because I think it would be a lot of fun.
I wish he were one of our subscribers.
Yes.
And if he were on LinkedIn, maybe he could become a follower.
You know what? I think I'm going to reach out to him through X or other means after this to see if we can get him to follow. It'll be a fun challenge.
Half a fern, in between, next to a fern. I'm next to a fern.
That's fantastic. Well, this is going to be a lot of fun. I've really been looking forward to this for a while, and let's go ahead and have fun with this. So I did want to talk just a little bit about, I introduced myself. I'm going to talk just a little bit about my background and what I do for DeNovo Treasury, and then the rest of it will be you. I have actually spent 35 years in the IT industry, tech writer, corporate trainer, QA, business analyst, product owner for many years. And when I was looking to maybe morph my career by using my skill set into something slightly different, Will and I started working together about a year ago. I was on a part-time freelance basis with him. Will and I have been fortunate enough to be friends for 30 plus years, so we know each other very well. As he was looking to expand his business, he realized that I had skills, even though we're not an IT operation, that would fit very well with DeNovo Treasury. And so I've been on board officially for about 6 months now. It's really been a great adventure. I use all of my skills, particularly tech writing, a lot of analysis, a lot of client relationships. And together, Will and I run the business, but he is very much the secret sauce. He is the proprietary industry knowledge, and we're going to learn all about that today. So I'm very excited. Will, I'd love for you to spend a few minutes and talk to us about your career trajectory up to the point that you decided to join DeNovo Treasury. I think this is going to speak a lot to your expertise in banking and treasury management in particular. So let's hear your spiel.
Thanks, Barb, and thanks for joining DeNovo Treasury. It's awesome having you here. And for those of you that are our clients that are listening, all the wonderful things that we are able to deliver to you are because Barb's able to help us with that and has helped us with streamlining process. So the delivery that we're able to give to you is all in part because she's able to help us with streamlining things, which has been a very good thing for us. So thank you. And this is a very different process for me this week or this month. I don't know if I feel more or less pressure being on this side of it, but we're going to give it a go. So between the two of us, I mean, we're approaching 70 years of expertise here, right?
Absolutely.
In different ways. So I have 34 years of financial services experience, going back to my roots in Columbus, Ohio, where you are, and a bank called Bank One that's now part of Chase. And when I started in banking, I started in sorting checks and batching checks, and ended up doing research on checks, and then eventually got into an ACH operations role. Got into some technology role myself as I was a business analyst. So I did some business analyst things. and project management. I was fortunate enough to have a mentor at Bank One who knew that I wanted to get into product management. And at the time, the product roles were moving to Chicago. And I was not in a position, I did not want to relocate. I had a young family at the time, did not want to take them to Chicago. But this individual who happened to be in Michigan, which is where I am now, and happened to be here in Southeast Detroit, had a headhunter reach out to him. And he was kind enough, and I was a good asset for him at Bank One, kind enough to share my name with them. And that led me to taking a job in 2002 with Fifth Third Bank, which started my journey in treasury management and in product management. So that was in 2002. So here we are 22 years later. My treasury management journey has been a very good one. I was a product manager for a number of years before I started leading and building product teams. Expertise was in ACH and wire and bill payment. So as a product owner or product manager, effectively running those businesses for banks like Fifth Third, as I mentioned, Key Bank. So I had a stint at Fifth Third, then one at Key Bank, and then I came back to Fifth Third. And then I actually worked for a processor that our clients will be, and our clients and prospects will be familiar with, Jack Henry. I worked there for about 18 months, and it was during the height of the start of real-time payments. And I was helping them build their real-time payment strategy. I was also the Zelle product manager. So Zelle is probably something consumers are very familiar with. A lot of us probably use Zelle. If you haven't used Zelle, you probably use Venmo, very similar. But Zelle is on a bank rail versus Venmo, which is independent and doesn't use your bank account. Eventually, you do transfer funds into your bank account with that. And then I worked for a startup here locally in Detroit, which is where I'm located now, which is called Autobooks. And a lot of our prospects and clients will know Autobooks' name as well because it's embedded in several of the core processors that our clients and prospects use, mainly Jack Henry, FIS, Q2, CSI, NCR, go down the line. There's a number of them that Autobooks is embedded in. So I've had a very broad and extensive career. I've been very fortunate to be able to do a lot of things in payments and in leading teams. I failed to mention what brought me to Michigan, and that is now who's become a mentor and a friend of mine. We had a career at Fifth Third together. He was leading a treasury management group here for a $17 billion financial institution that had been a group of community banks that had been built, over time, from 2009 to about 2018 when I joined them. I was the first product director they brought on to build out their product team, but also to help them build their treasury management strategy. It's really what the foundation of DeNovo Treasury is built on. That was my first real use case, is being at this mid-size financial institution that had this need of building out a product management organization, taking their product set to the next level, and what does that 3-year strategy look like in doing that? So that was my first real live case of taking something from the ground up, and I did that with my leader at it was Chemical Bank, eventually became TCF Bank as we merged. So some of the activities were accelerated because we did have a merger. So we went from 17 to 23 billion to 50 billion very quickly in a 3.5-year period until we were acquired by Huntington Bank, which brings me to why I went to Autobooks. And then eventually, a lot of people don't know this part of the story, really was intended to build some of what DeNovo Treasury is today inside of Autobooks, but it really didn't come to fruition. And I think I'm getting into another question, Barb, which was,
yes,
how
this
did
is
DeNovo
actually
Treasury come about? Is it
a
okay that
perfect
I segue like
yes,
this?
please do. I just
Okay.
wanted to talk about the background, which you did a beautiful job, and then what led you to actually form DeNovo Treasury. Some of it may be circumstantial, but most of it was very intentional, and I think people will want to hear about this.
Yes, it was a little bit of both, and 3 colleagues of mine, actually, we had all worked together at TCF Bank and other banks. Frankly, several of us had worked together at Fifth Third over the years, and two of the three at the time had, I mean, all three of them are and had become friends and colleagues. One had been a 20-year plus friend, one had been a 10-year plus friend. So people that had become not only colleagues, but had become friends that we had, and we were in certain parts, times in our careers and in our lives, we started to look at what does next look like for us as we, get to a certain age point and a certain point in our career as well. And maybe wanting to take a little bit more control of our careers and where we want to go. And so we started talking about what a consulting company might look like in treasury management. And that really is the roots of what DeNovo Treasury is. And that started out sometime around April of 2022, where we would get together every other weekend or so. And we actually called it Project Yellow Sticky Note. Nobody probably knows that. So that's before DeNovo Treasury had a name. That's what it was called. And we'd get together. We'd start to talk about what an ideal consulting company would look like, what our target audience would look like, what the services would look like. And a lot of what we do today is rooted in that and is rooted in what we built at Chemical/TCF Bank and the use case that we, basically the strategy that I had helped build there. I don't want to say just me, because it was a team effort. Certainly I led that. But, I had a lot of great support from my leader there who, I can't say enough. I'm not going to say his name because I'm protecting the innocent here. I wish I could, but he'd rather that I not, because he's a great friend and mentor, but he's at a financial institution that does not want me to share his name. So I can't. But I will say that you can probably put the dots together. But I will say that, he did a great job at our financial institution of clearing the way for us to be successful, and taught me a lot about how to get that done, so that now I take those principles and have been able to apply that here at DeNovo Treasury. So when I decided that it was time for me to, what was next for me, fortunately or unfortunately, the others were not ready to do that, but they gave me their blessing to go ahead and take the concept and take it into the market. For whatever life circumstances they had, it just was not the right time. And I felt that it was the right time for me, and I felt the market was right for it. And so that was the birth of DeNovo Treasury in July of 2022. I also had the opportunity with a community bank I had been talking to that I felt was ready for, this type of consult. So they were talking about, hey, we need somebody to help us with strategy. We need someone to help us with product design. So immediately, the birth of the company was also a little bit easier because I had a client right on the hook. So those two things kind of came together very nicely. Company actually opened doors on August 1st. And our first agreement was signed on August 10th. So lined up very nicely.
Yeah, that's great. And we just had our 2 years, which is fantastic. Yeah. I'm going to jump around just a little bit based on how the conversation is going. We do have a basic list of topics we're going to cover, but one of the things that I actually had slated for later in this podcast is who are our target and current customers. And the reason I want to ask this now is banks of all sizes have treasury management concerns, but what we do at DeNovo Treasury is really focused on community financial institutions, credits, smaller banks, rural banks. I'm curious to know if you could speak to why that particular segment of the financial industry is what you chose to focus on.
Yeah, the need is the need, right? It could be that there is a mid-size bank that needs it. I will tell you that we have a couple of mid-size banks, and I'm going to define mid-size the way that the Federal Reserve does, which is 8 billion to 100 billion. Okay, that's a mid-size bank. Once you get past 8 billion, you're considered mid-size. And we have 2 to 3 prospects that are in the $17 billion range, which ironically is where Chemical Bank was when I started there and was building out the product management team. Now, their needs are much different. They tend to have needs that are in the product management type area where they're building out product organizations and they need help in that area, or their needs are more focused on they have a pretty good product set and it's kind of like, what's next? How do we elevate? Now, where we find the community financial institutions, so let's talk about 8 billion and below. These are the financial institutions that are really kind of moving from, what I would consider to be what they would call business products, and they kind of get started with small business and micro business, and their product set does very good just on the entry level, and they're serving kind of that mom and pop business and the one-off needs that they had as they were growing, maybe from a DeNovo, so no pun intended, from a DeNovo bank that grows from one branch. So they went through a DeNovo process and they became a chartered bank. And maybe now they're growing organically or they're growing by acquisition. And now it's time to change their portfolio. And so, when they start out with, the retail side, they start with mortgages. They tend to, when they get into business, they tend to get into commercial lending and commercial real estate, excuse me. And so that when they need to diversify and get out of commercial real estate can be somewhat risky, right? So they need to get into commercial and industrial type lending, and that requires a more sophisticated product set. That is also where the deposits are greater and the non-interest income is greater. So as they grow and they want to, so when I say they, I mean the community financial institutions, as they grow, or if they have an edict to grow from their board or from their C-suite, hey, we want to grow deposits. We want to grow non-interest income. Treasury management's a lead in that. And in order to attract those businesses, those C&I businesses that are, it's a very competitive space. A lot of financial institutions that are going after those, they have to have a product set that will compete. And every large and mid-sized bank is going after those same deposits. They're going after those same C&I clients. So, imagine the money center banks. So we're talking about JP Morgan, we're talking about Citi, we're talking about Bank of America, we're talking about Wells, who have very rich product sets in treasury management, are going after the same customers sometimes that, your county bank is, that, is trying to stay with their hometown customer that they've had for a very long time, might be growing, and they want to grow with them. And that's where DeNovo Treasury and kind of again, our sweet spot tends to be with our customers where they're finding this kind of growth tends to be 1 to 5 billion. Doesn't mean we can't help everybody. It's just depending on where they are in their growth continuum, right? And where they are in this timeline. We have clients that are as small as 200 million, and we have prospects that are as large as 17 billion. Just depends on where that need is, but it tends to fall. I mean, really, most of our clients tend to fall right about 1 billion. Seems to be the magic number on where they start to really find this need to invest in treasury management, and where the leadership is like, it's time for us to change our portfolio. It's time to change that dynamic. Need to get out of the C&R, like the less dependent on real estate lending and getting more into the C&I lending. And we need more deposits from that group. We need more non-interest income. And that's how the progression works. And that's where DeNovo Treasury comes in. It's where our expertise comes in. We can help them with, hey, where do we stand in the market with our local and regional competition? How do we go about then changing that? And where are our gaps? How do we prioritize? And, because we're going to find that 9 times out of 10, they're going to have 15, 20, 25 plus gaps when it comes to what we call table stakes. These are the things that a C&I type client will require of their financial institution in order to bring their banking to them.
So this might be a good segue. Again, jumping around a little bit from what we'd exactly planned, but let's talk about what our offerings are as an organization, because I think this ties in beautifully to the help that you provide for these community financial institutions.
Sure.
And then from there, we can kind of segue into our values, what a typical engagement looks like. I'm going to go ahead and share here. This is our website, DeNovoTreasury.com, and I've gone to the offerings page. Will, are you able to see this? I'm sharing appropriately.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep, it's showing appropriately.
So I'm going to just kind of give an overview of each of the 3 buckets of services that we offer. And then, Will, if you want to take any of these buckets or any of these particular assessments, consultations, or services and do a deep dive, we certainly have time for that. But there are, as I mentioned, basically 3 buckets, 3 categories of offerings. We have assessments, which is just, Will comes in, works with the boots on the ground people at the financial institution, and we look at the current state of your financial institution from a treasury management, instant payment, and a competitive analysis perspective. These are 3 different assessments. And then moving on to consultations, this is a little bit more of a deep dive into the current situation. And on top of the assessment, which is a little bit baked into this, we can offer a real strategy for real sustainable and measurable growth. So here again, we can focus on treasury management offerings, instant payments, product management design. And finally, we do offer services. The most standout in my mind is the fractional product management. We have a few other types of services coming, which maybe if we have a few minutes at the end of the podcast, we can talk about that, or you can look for our press releases. But what's interesting is, and Will, I will let you speak to each of these. I have noticed just consistently that when you are first talking to a prospective client, you really take the time to understand where they are, what their needs are. Even if a customer doesn't exactly know, they just need some sort of help. You are such a great listener and such a master of really taking the time to understand their current situation and then proposing an offering based on what their needs and their goals are. This isn't sort of one size fits all. Every institution is in a slightly different place. And so what they need at any given time is different. The other thing that I really like about this is, some people start with services and then they maybe move not backwards, but in this direction to say, now that we've had a little bit of your time, we realize a consultation might be a good next step. Other times, someone can start with an assessment and then say, hey, we want to move on to consultation or jump right to fractional. So it really is tailored. It really is not a one size fits all. And there's no one prescription or one path that a customer has to take to reap the benefits of what DeNovo Treasury can help with. So, Will, do you want to take a few minutes and maybe talk about each of these?
I'm gonna dive into a few of them, but I really appreciate what you've hit on. We really do take a pragmatic approach, which is we are not product pushers. We're not trying to, hit you with, listen, a consultation is our biggest offering. That's where we make the most money. We're not going in and just trying to sell you a consultation because that's where we get the most out of this. We really
Absolutely.
We really are trying to listen to the market need. That's really what a pragmatic approach is for a product management approach. And that's kind of where my roots are. So I appreciate that you've noticed that just, organically and just, naturally is and tells me that we're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And that I'm taking the right approach. And the other thing that you've noticed, and it's taken us a while to get there, and I like the way that it's turning out, is that yes, you can start off in a fractional, and we'll go into some details here. You start off in a fractional, but then you could end up in an assessment, but you can go right back to a fractional, and we'll show you how all that works together, and vice versa. You could start off in a consultation, but then use us in a fractional to help you get traction. And that's the way these things are really designed to work. So let's just on an assessment side, I wanted to talk just very quickly about a competitive analysis because it is embedded also in the treasury management analysis. With any one of these three offerings here, what we leave you with is not only each one of these results in a white paper that we leave you with of results, but ultimately what we're giving you are recommendations effectively of how you elevate and take these next things and kind of move on. So for instance, on the competitive analysis, we're taking a look at your competition and we decide together what financial institutions locally, meaning the ones that you kind of see in your backyard every day, regionally, so ones that are slightly larger and kind of expanding out from your footprint a little bit that you see. And then we always give you a view of those national brands that you're going to see, whether you see them every day or your clients will see them. We want to make sure that your clients are members, that we want to make sure that we give you kind of a good cross section of what those look like and the unique things that they might be offering. Because frankly, they're going to offer most, if not all, of the treasury management services that are out there. So we try to show you some unique things that they do. So in a competitive analysis, we're going to compare you to those financial institutions that we have decided on together. We're going to provide you with a matrix. We go through payables, receivables, what we call digital and liquidity. So we're looking at deposits and liquidity, excuse me. So we're looking at account types. We're looking at ways that you're helping your client with managing their working capital. We're looking at money movement type things in that section. We also look at channel and information management, and then we look at international banking. So we have 5 categories that we look at, and all the products and services that we think, again, that we feel are table stakes that a C&I client will look for. We just kind of grade you on whether or not you have those things. If there's a particular service that is, outstanding in one market or another, we'll provide some information on that. And then we just grade you on each of those categories on where you are versus, the competition. And again, we'll break it down into first your local clients and then your regional. So we kind of break them down into both of those, identify those gaps, and then we start to help build a roadmap and a prioritization for you based on our experience, what we think of that market, and if DeNovo Treasury were sitting in your seat, how we would go about closing those. And we make that recommendation for you. So that's how a treasury management competitive analysis looks. And that takes about 8 to 10 weeks, that engagement. Now, one of the things that you can do with that engagement is follow it up with a fractional product management service that is a service that basically we serve as extension of you in that sense, where we can provide a product management, basically we can be your product staff, and for a monthly fee we have 3 packages then that are limited to a certain number of hours. So you get a certain number of hours with each one of those, either 10, 20, or 30, based on the fee that you pay. And then there's a per hour fee should you go over those hours. But then we have a list of things that we would do for you based on, being effectively what a product manager would do. So we're trying to help you bridge the gap of either expertise or bandwidth that you might have. Mm-hmm. But in the sense of maybe a competitive analysis, the way that you would pair this with a fractional is maybe to help you get some traction on that roadmap and help you, not only take our recommendations, but maybe help you implement some of those or help you get maybe, your teams behind those and maybe help get some approvals on things. That's one of the ways that we could use that. Another way that the product the fractional service has been used is that we come in and we can manage, projects that you have that are product related. For instance, we help with reviewing and managing vendor evaluations. We have one right now with a client where we're managing a lockbox RFP. So we're helping them choose a new lockbox service provider. We have another one where we're sitting on a project to help them with implementing their new core. We've done some where we're helping them with certain things inside their core. They needed to help with setting up the analysis system in their core. Another one where they need to roll out the services that are associated with their core so they have new product rollout. That's another way that you can use the fractional product management service. Or maybe it's just, hey, we need help with how our products are positioned today. Can you just help us with how we go about making those products more efficient? Can you help us with sales training, things of that nature? So that's what a product management fractional service would look like. If you want to go to the consultation,
I know I'm oversimplifying a bit, but I think of fractional product management. You've used these terms, but just to kind of sum up, basically you're hiring Will on a part-time basis to either plug a bandwidth or an expertise gap that you don't have. And what we find, some clients engage with us purely with a fractional. They don't do an assessment or a consultation. And this is something that we welcome. But it really is, you become in essence part of their staff on a part-time basis. Literally any needs in product or treasury management that a financial institution may have, you would be able to help with. And so whereas the assessments and consultations, even though they're very tailored to each client, there is sort of a formula, a roadmap that we use to go through those engagements, whereas the fractional is more, hey, I'm here to help. What are your needs? I can literally do almost anything to assist you.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. So I guess there's a beginning and an end to a consultation and an assessment. And there's a little more fluidity to a service. And I guess the other thing I would say about the fractional product, and you mentioned this in the onset with when you were introducing these, the fractional sometimes is an investigation or a research for us too, where we're coming in to kind of understand maybe we can't uncover for whatever reason the best we try with the client what the need actually is.
Yes.
And the best way to do that is to engage in a fractional product service where we can come in and do a better job of understanding together with the client to understand what that need actually is. And we've done that on a couple of occasions where then it turns into an assessment or a consultation. So we then flip out of the fractional into that. And we've had it happen in reverse too, where we've had the assessment end or the consultation end, and it turns into a fractional service. That's the flexibility also that we offer. Yeah.
What I'd like to do, we're coming up on the amount of time we typically like to spend on this, and I think we're doing great. What I'd like to do next is, if there's anything you want to talk about on the consultation front, maybe do that quickly. And then I'd like to segue into what a typical engagement looks like. And I can give an overview of this, and then you can add some color commentary. So do you have anything to add on consultations, maybe a deep dive on any one of these?
2 minutes on treasury management strategy. Let's just talk about that.
Sure.
It's really kind of an extension of a treasury management analysis where we've kind of done an assessment of your treasury management business. On the strategy side, we've uncovered things that we call driving forces. These are the things that influence your treasury management business. Building on those, we work with the team to identify 3 to 5 strategic goals that you want to achieve in the next 5 years or 3 years, excuse me. Nothing gets done. No plans are 5 years anymore. You're lucky if you keep a plan for a year. But we do look at 3-year projections on the plan. We help then build a roadmap to support that. We look at what fee income will look like, deposit growth, what the expenses look like to support that. And all of those are documented things that we have tools to help you with managing those, so that when we walk away, we've given you these things that you can use to manage that go forward. Just wanted to give a quick overview on the strategy piece.
No, that's so important, because there are 2 aspects to basically everything you do. There's the conceptual, the theory, the subscribed best practices, but then you're left with how do I actually act on this? And you do such a
Yeah.
good job of making sure that these financial institutions are empowered to take this information and kind of run with it. You're there as a safety net. You're there as a hireable
Sure.
resource if they need more hand holding. But this is not something where you're leaving them with more questions than answers at the end. And I've seen it time and again. So that's something I think we should be very proud of, you in particular, because you're solving a real need and you're giving them a true strategy on how to then go forward with the information. So let's
And
talk about a typical.
we have a quick fractional service too that we can use just as a very quick maintenance to just on the end of that strategy, just to help transition it from, because we just don't want to walk away, which we can do if the financial institution's equipped to take it once we're done, that's great. But we don't just walk away. If we can help take it from conceptual at that point to help them then start implementing. It doesn't have to be a long period either. Just be 1 or 2 months post, readout, because every one of these we do a results presentation with whomever they want to bring to the table. We've done it with CEOs, we've done it with presidents, we've done it with boards, whoever they want to have present for that. And 100% of the time, DeNovo Treasury has done the readout, but they're welcome to do the readout if they would like to do it. But we do the readout in front of the audience and basically hand off all the results at that point. I'd rather that our clients engage us to stay on for a month or two so that we can help them with making sure that, if there's anything that from other approvals they need to get from from any of the board from a financial perspective, or if they just need to take it through their project office, whatever it needs to do, just to kind of help them with that next step, just make sure that things get handed off properly. We'd like to be able to do that. Not everybody takes us up on it, but I just want to say that one last piece.
No, that's great. And that's actually a beautiful segue into the topic that I said we were going to talk about. So what a typical engagement looks like. So I'll kind of talk about this at a high level. And if you want to add any color commentary on these more fixed type of engagements, not the services, but for an assessment or a consultation, there really is a very collaborative approach. And again, I've seen this time and again. There's an introduction and discovery phase where we very specifically work with clients to understand what their pain points are, what their gaps are, what their needs are, what their expectations are in working with us. It is very schedule driven, and there is weekly check-ins and touch points, which keeps the client very engaged. Oftentimes they have homework, things that they need to gather and provide to us so we can get a complete picture to complete any engagements that we have. And as Will was starting to mention, there is a final presentation and documentation delivery at the end. So we are leaving them, oftentimes these discovery documents and what we hand over are 100 or more pages, but it's all extremely useful content. So what I like so much about the way that we engage with clients and customers, it's very collaborative. It is not us dictating or preaching. It's very much, hey, you should consider us your coworkers for the length of the engagement. They go anywhere from 8 to about 12 to 16 weeks, depending on what the needs are. We become a trusted partner in what we're navigating. And at the end, there is a very big payoff. So Will, if you would like to speak to the feeling of the engagement or feedback you've gotten on engagements and pacing, it's very doable. It's not anything that becomes oppressive or, takes up the majority of the time on the part of the client, even though we're clear about what the expectations are in terms of what they need to turn over and what the time commitments are. So if you want to take a few minutes and speak to that.
Yeah. And it is, it can go, you mentioned 16, upwards of 18 weeks. And we don't put a timeline on it so that we restrict it. We do want it, we want it to be collaborative, and we want it goes the distance it needs to go. I want to make sure that we're clear about that.
Great
but
point.
We also will be mindful of, we need to put guardrails on these things. We don't want it to go for an infinite amount of time because everybody's time is important. And we want to make sure that we deliver in a realistic timeline. But we also know that everybody's busy. And, many of the folks that are involved with this are also leaders of these financial institutions and have a very busy day to day. So we're balancing all of those things. We're also balancing the fact that DeNovo Treasury has multiple things going on too. So we're trying to be mindful of all those things when we put together the schedule. It is, the timeline is set that way for a number of reasons. One, we try to just do one activity each week, so it's very collaborative, so everybody kind of knows where we're going. And it is done very methodically for a number of reasons. Another reason it's done methodically is so that it allows for time for people to think about these things and how they interact. And you'll be surprised how things start to come out as as the longer it goes, the more stuff comes out. And that's what I like about it, because in the beginning, everybody's just kind of like, they follow it by the rule, and they give me the things that they say they'll give me. And but as the time goes on, we build the relationship, people start to say things and things start to come out that they don't feel comfortable about saying in the beginning. So that's another reason I like to have a much longer engagement, because people start to become comfortable. We start to build a relationship. They get comfortable with us, and they start to trust us. And then they start to tell us the real stuff. And so sometimes the back end of the engagement is a little bit longer than what we can prescribe, because sometimes some things come out, and that's a good thing. I want to make sure that we're clear about that. It's a very good thing, because that's the stuff we really need to work on. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of time to build that, and that's why I purposely have made these engagements a little bit longer, because it takes some time for people to get comfortable and to want to raise their hand and say, hey, this is the real story behind this. And I love to hear the real stories, and I want to help solve them. That's why we're here, not to, just take the company line. That's not going to solve anything. So we are purposely stretching this out for a number of reasons. And I think the most important one is that we build trust, and over time, people start to share more information, and we really get to the nuts and bolts of really what's going on, so that we can solve some problems. And I don't know that people always recognize that. So
I love that, because it's a little bit of a funny analogy, but it's almost like therapy. You create this forum where we can openly discuss gaps and issues and risks. But then as relationships get built and there's a trust, which happens invariably almost right out of the gate, people do open up more. And the more the more you have a realistic view of what's really going on with any financial institution, the more you're in a position to offer advice and planning and roadmaps that are truly going to help them grow, and not what was first evident on the surface.
Well, and so they also sorry, Barb. They also start to understand the caliber of what we're actually doing and bringing to them. They also start to understand that, okay, they have, Frank, they pay us well, right? They're paying us. I'm not saying they're not paying us unreasonably, but they're paying us well. They start to understand that they're going to be putting their signature on whatever it is that we deliver. Mm-hmm. And so they start to think about the quality of what is going to be delivered is only as good as what they're going to give us too.
Right.
So that's the other thing. So sometimes, as we get towards the end, that pressure starts to build a little bit of what are we building together? And, oh, wow, I've kind of missed this. There's always a gotcha about, and let's say it's an 18-week strategy. There's always a gotcha about week 13 or 14, maybe 12, 13, 14, somewhere right around there. Always something that gets missed. Always like, oh, I had this project, or I had these things that we didn't, in every one of these. And so that's the part that you really just can't plan for, which is why, I always pad it with a couple weeks, because we just don't know.
No, that's great. And I think we're touching on the topic that I think we're going to close out with today. I would really like to talk about our company values. We have several peripheral board members. Yep. We have a sales and marketing person that we unfortunately don't have time to talk about today, but if you go out to our website, all of this information is there. I do want to leave with both talking about our values and then our community and what we do on the volunteer front, because both
Sure.
of these things are extremely important to us. And the one thing I want to say about our values, you could certainly be in a position, if you wanted to be really clever and frankly underhanded and sneaky, where you could foster a dependence that these financial institutions would have on us long term. And we're actually not interested in doing that. You know, ongoing clientele relationships are always very nice. We're in a very cyclical business, but at the end of the day, we set these financial institutions up to run themselves and to help themselves. This is not something where we're creating this sort of false dependence on us. And I think your values speak to that. So, Will, if you could take a few minutes to talk about our values and how you came up with these, I think we'd love to hear that.
Well, you know, I guess these are these are things that you know, over time I've learned about myself. These are things that are very important to me. And as I built teams and were part of teams that I felt that were most important. And you know, my roots as a product manager in financial institutions, you're you are required to be a relationship builder. You're a matrix manager, and I will tell you that empathy and authenticity are the two most important things that you can have in that role. You have to ask for permission a lot of times. You have to see from the other person's point of view 100% of the time, in order to come to some middle ground. And that was just kind of ingrained in me in my 22 years doing product work. And you know, one of the things that I looked for when I was hiring my team or teams over time was, you know, I think that people with a very high EQ and people are authentic and true to themselves, I can, if I have that and they have a little bit of industry knowledge, I can teach anybody anything, you know, but I can't teach empathy and authenticity and intention. Those are things I think you either have those and you know how to apply those, or you don't. And those are the type of people I like to do business with too. And I just found that over time, you know, I would, even making a vendor decision in my early years, I just found that like sometimes I felt like I was making a decision based on the person more so than I was. And you know, that's not always the way you should do that, especially younger in my career. But I felt like it's like I want to do business with this person. You know, it was more so than the company or the product even.
Absolutely.
But we're at a time and a place now where, you know, as running my own company, that you know I can make those type of decisions. I can say that, you know, oh, this prospect feels good, and I can just tell, and that's great. And I will tell you that most of our prospects have felt that way, and all of our clients have felt that way. Every one of our engagements has been truly enriching, and
Absolutely.
I feel like all of them have fallen into our value structure very well, and our prospects have too. So I don't know if I've hit on the things that you wanted me to as it related
No,
to
it's
that.
fantastic.
But I mean, those are the things that are very important to me. So that's why they're in the fabric of our company. And there's 4 or 5 more others that are part of this too, that, you know, are accountability. And yeah, I probably should know them all by heart, but I don't. But they're all very much in alignment with, you know, things of this nature.
Well, banking, like anything else, is about relationships. And I feel very fortunate that we're on a great trajectory of growth. And I am so grateful for that because of the foundation that you've laid and because of the good work you've done with previous clients who continue to come back to us for help and new clients who are onboarding. One thing that I love about DeNovo Treasury that I think will never change, even though we are growing, we have discussed potential expansion in terms of the services that we offer and the people that we bring on board. But we will always be a small business at heart. And what I mean by that is it's always going to be a people-oriented thing. It's always about the relationships. It's always going to be about very custom help. There's no one size fits all. We go into every engagement with fresh eyes and really personalized prescriptive help and advice. And that will never change. And I feel very grateful for that. I think you are in a niche. You have created very intentionally a niche that you are uniquely positioned to serve. And it's very exciting. So
Well,
I'm very
I
proud to be part
appreciate
of this
that.
organization. Yes.
We're happy
And
to have you. Yeah.
we are sort of at the end of our time. We've gone a little bit over a typical podcast, but I think this has been very helpful. Certainly, for anyone who wants more information, you can contact us through our website. There's a form there. You can pick up the phone and call. You can email. But everything that we do and everything that we've talked about today and more is on the website, DeNovoTreasury.com. Will, do you have anything that you want to say to close us out?
I think you might be replacing me before long as host of In the DeNovo. I think there's that. I think I'd like to have 2 Ferns next time.
Yes.
There's that. I think the only thing I'd like to say, and I know we're short on time. Please visit our community page. One of the things we do like to do is when we work and engage with our clients, we like to help represent the communities in which they serve by representing a charity of their choosing. And we put that on our website so that, we can help, the community they live and serve in as well. So you'll see that there's a good representation of our clients that have chosen to take us up on that offer. And please go out and take a look at that and support our clients and their causes. So that is Fantastic. What I would like to end with.
No, that's great. This has been very fun. Thank you for watching and listening, and join us next month for our next In the DeNovo. And I can't spill the beans yet, but we have a very exciting guest for our next web
and you podcast. You might have to interview both of us, maybe.
I would love that. So Thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and have a good day.
Barb.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of In the DeNovo. For more content like the video we shared today, check out our website at DeNovoTreasury.com and our YouTube channel at DeNovo Treasury. Thanks, and see you next time.